Hello everybody, kia ora, and welcome to this video. I'm going to talk about Neptune and its journey from Aries back into Pisces. It's had a few months in Aries. It's going to go into Pisces for even fewer months, and then in January it's going back into Aries, where it will be for the next 14 years or so. Neptune is hard to pin down, it's hard to define. It's a planet that's mystical, it's misty, it's confusing. And because it's an outer planet, even if it wasn't mystical and confusing, it would still be hard to define because the outer planets move so slowly. Their effects are subtle and you can usually only notice them in the long term. Nevertheless, I'm going to attempt to explain Neptune and also why it's important to the astrological influences that are affecting us at the moment. And then I'm going to do an all signs breakdown about what you might have seen with Neptune in the sign of Pisces over the last 14 years or so, and what you're likely to expect with Neptune in the sign of Aries over the next 14 years or so. To introduce myself, my name is Fiona of Sun and Moon Calendar, and I make calendars for New Zealand and Australia like this one, using lunar months and giving lots of information about the astrological transits and how they affect you day by day, as well as that lunar month and its waxing and waning phases. I have just come back from a 6-month tour around Europe and the UK, touring around in a van with my partner, and so I didn't do a video last week. I apologize because we were in transit and then very tired and figuring out where we were staying and everything. It's very nice to be back. We're back at work and I've just come from work and I'm sitting in a hidey hole in a park in my town, surrounded by lovely trees in the wind and wild garlic. Nice smell coming to me. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Neptune. All right, so Neptune is a planet. It's an outer planet, and we have the inner planets, the personal planets. In astrology, we use the sun and moon as personal planets, also Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and they move around the zodiac more quickly. Venus, the sun, and Mercury take a year to go around the zodiac. Mars takes 2 years, and of course the moon is very quickly, every month, going around the earth. So those planets are little and quick, and they rule many of the aspects of daily life and ordinary things of daily life. Then we get to Jupiter and Saturn, and those are known as transpersonal planets. They start to, as well as affecting our lives in slower and more longer term ways, they also drive world movements and social change. And after that we get to the outer planets, so that is Uranus, which takes 84 years to go around the zodiac, very slow. Neptune, which takes 165 years to go around the zodiac, even slower. It spends 14 years or so in each sign. And Pluto, which takes 144, I think it is, 144 years to go around the zodiac. It spends around about 20 years in each sign, though that goes up and down a bit because it has an erratic orbit. Those planets, of course, cannot be seen by the naked eye. You need a telescope to see them, so they were only discovered later in in the last 200 years or so. Neptune itself was discovered, I'm consulting my notes, in 1846, and it was discovered through mathematical calculations. They discovered Uranus, I think it was in the late 1700s, and then they realized that there was something irregular about Uranus's orbit, and through calculations they found out that there must be some other planet there. So they actually knew about Neptune before they saw it. And this, in a way, symbolizes that hidden or mysterious nature with Neptune. Neptune is Neptune, of course, is the god of the ocean, the Roman god of the ocean. And if you imagine the flow and the sway and the wavering of the ocean with Neptune, and also the mystical nature, there's a real magic. If you go under the water, if you're a snorkeler or a diver, you would know how otherworldly and different colors. You feel like you're in a magic world under the water, and Neptune is like that. So Neptune can be very confusing. It can also be very foggy, so that you can't see the wood for the trees, you can't see ahead, you can't see what's happening. It is about dissolving boundaries, but when the boundaries are there, you don't see them dissolving. You might just realize that they're gone. And it's the same. Neptune can also be about the end of things and the taking away of things. If you imagine the tides coming in, Neptune can bring gifts, beautiful magical gifts out of nowhere, and then the tide can go out and take the gifts away, take the same gifts away, or take other gifts away. Neptune is so mystical and otherworldly, and it can have a bad reputation. A lot of people don't like Neptune because it can lead to confusion, vagueness, even addictions, because it can be about escaping from reality, escaping what's the truth and the concrete reality in front of us, concrete facts and logic. Neptune doesn't care about that. Neptune wants to get out of that. It's about feelings and energies that are unseen. And the downside of Neptune is confusion and vagueness and deception, actual deception, where you're trying to trick people or distract them from reality in ways that cause detriment to them. But the upside of Neptune is that it recognizes the unseen energies that are all around us, the energies that connect everything and everyone and every time and every place, everything that exists in the whole universe, Neptune is so massively, hugely, endlessly expansive. It contains everything. And if you imagine, like, if you're out in the starry sky, for example, you're out under the starry sky looking up at the stars, and at times like this, I think many people get a real feeling of the vastness of the universe, and there's at the same time this feeling of insignificance with the self, and at the same time as that, a feeling of significance, a feeling like almost like you are everything. So Neptune is about how we are nothing and we are everything. And it's also about eternity, like all times exist at once, and even when we go, when our body goes, when we die, that our soul is going on and on and on. We become part of everything. All the cells become part of the earth, and our spirit becomes part of the greater consciousness. So a word for Neptune is oceanic. Just so enormous, so flowing, and connecting everything. If you think about the way the ocean connects all the countries, all the lands on earth, and water will always flow in and fit into the shape and size of the vessel that it's in. Neptune does that. It flows, but then you try and hold it in your hand and you cannot contain it. The water just flows out. That is Neptune. Very hard to explain and describe, and so I hope you haven't got confused by my explanation so far. The way that Neptune influences us in our life is it helps us to see things through rose-colored lenses, so that things can seem more glamorous, romanticized. It can make things feel like they've got more meaning. And Neptune can help, when we're having hard times and we can see them in a better light. When we're trying to figure out why we had a really bad experience, we can see it as actually being meaningful, that there was some kind of meaning. Of course, there are lessons from all the planets, but Neptune helps us to think about that everything in the world is there for a meaning, for a reason. Okay, it can make things, ordinary things, seem a little bit magical and glamorized and sparkling, like they've got little sparks coming off them, and they look more beautiful, the colors more vivid and bright. So with that, Neptune actually rules the media, like movies and stories. It's so much about imagination, about artistry, the kind of creativity that's just coming through flow and connecting with your right brain. Anybody with a lot of Neptune will tend to see things and learn things better when it's more like you're using pictures and stories to learn things rather than facts and figures. Neptune does not think much of facts and figures. So Neptune is wonderful for creativity, wonderful for imagination. And in terms of life and ordinary life, you know, Neptune hates life admin and hates dealing with the details of life. It is so, it's about looking at everything as being big and spiritual and expansive and important and grand. But the way that Neptune can help us with daily life is, because Neptune is so good at visualizing and imagining and is about idealistic principles, it's great to use Neptune to visualize the kind of life that you want. So looking to the future, what kind of life do you want? Visualizing that, imagining it, telling stories about it to yourself. What kind of life, what kind of world do you want? A big part of Neptune also, on the positive side, is unconditional love and compassion and acceptance. Accepting everything, accepting one. So it's often connected with dispossessed people, people who are not regarded as being perhaps so successful in society, or on the outer fringes of society, perhaps even rejected by society. So people who are in prison, for example, or minority groups in some cases, people who don't have a lot of the sort of status symbols that are seen as being successful or being part of society and in the center of things. Okay, and people with Neptune influences on their career, they might be working in those areas perhaps to help people become more accepted in society, or to looking after and perhaps even doing charity work, because Neptune is very charitable. The downside of Neptune is, as well as being deceptive at times, is also too much escapism, because Neptune is with that imagination. There can be escapism from reality, and we can do that too much. So Neptune is also associated with addiction, okay? And of course, that being the downside of being too much into escaping reality. People with strong Neptune energy can also be really like flowing like water and really good at fitting into this or fitting into that. So there was one person or one group of people and they're acting a certain way, and then they go and join another group of people, they act in a different way, because there's just so much flexibility and, like I said, that boundlessness of Neptune. So if you have a lot of Neptune in your chart, or you've got a lot of Pisces in your chart, because Neptune being the modern ruler of Pisces, we have to watch for that we don't become too chameleon-like, too changeable, that we keep some spine or backbone, stays true to our principles, and don't flow too much into something that later on we think, oh, that was not really me, I went too far in that direction, that was not truthful to what I believe in. Neptune can also be very giving, but maybe give too much because of that charitable nature, that unconditional love. But then on the other side of things, Neptune can be at times selfish if they're avoiding looking at reality. So if we're acting too much out in that Neptunian way, the avoiding reality might mean that we're just letting other people take care of things, of responsibilities and duties and hard work that we need to do. So Neptune can go either way with that. Okay, but I believe, I've been thinking about what is the meaning of Neptune. Why is Neptune important? Because as I said, there's a lot of astrologers don't like Neptune very much. And it is seen as a malefic because of its ability to deceive and confuse. And also it's to do with loss, because it can take things away as well as bringing gifts. And I think it is something to do with remembering that there's more to life than the here and now and the material reality. Neptune is the main planet that reminds us that there's all these unseen energies all around us, that the universe is vast and we are just one little part of it. And despite the fact that what we can see and feel, like just looking at that tree, so these tree trunks, they're so solid that are sitting around me. So that's what you can believe, because you can touch it and feel it. But Neptune reminds us that things are real even when we can't touch them and feel that tangible presence. Okay. So Neptune is important in astrology at the moment because it has just changed signs. After 14 years in the sign of Pisces, where it is very at home, because Pisces is a very similar energy to Neptune, and Neptune is seen as the modern ruler of Pisces, Jupiter being the ancient ruler. Neptune has just moved into Aries as of the end of March this year. And Neptune in Aries, well, Aries is about go-getting and taking action and blazing new trails and being direct and blunt. And Neptune is, that energy is not very Neptunian, so they don't exactly suit each other. But nevertheless, that's going to happen. We've got Neptune is going to go through Aries over the next 14-15 years. Right now, however, from the 22nd of October, Neptune is in retrograde and it's about to go back into Aries. And it's about to go back into Pisces for another few months until late January, and then it's going to be in Aries for good. So in this video, I'm talking about, of course, what it's going to be like for you with it in Aries and what it might have been like for you with Neptune and Pisces. But first I'm going to do some dates. So I'll go over those dates. So everyone was born with Neptune in a sign, and I won't talk about the Neptune generations, but because Neptune spends so long in a sign, like people with Neptune in Libra or Neptune in Scorpio or Neptune in Sagittarius and so on, have a certain personality, or there's something in common for all of those people born over those years. And like I said, I'm not going to go into that in this video, that would make it too long, but you can think about it. I'm going to give you the dates anyway. So for anyone born from 1943 until 1955, 56 or so, Neptune was in Libra. If you were born from 1955, 56 or 57 until 1970, Neptune was in Scorpio. That is where Neptune is for me. You can see it's very long in each sign. From 1970 until 1984, Neptune was in Sagittarius. If you were born between 1984 and 1988, Neptune was in Capricorn. Somewhere around there. Oh yes, no. Neptune was in Aquarius 1998 until 2011. And during that time there was a big conjunction with Chiron, and I think it was Saturn. And that was at the time of the financial crisis in 2009. Maybe, yeah, that was quite interesting to notice that. Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011, 2012, and then it just moved into Aries in March this year. And then Neptune is going to be in Aries, I think it's until 2038. Yeah, so a really long time. And it's not only exciting, the fact that Neptune has just moved into Aries, which is exciting enough on its own, it's also part of that incredibly rare mini grand trine that's going on with Neptune at the apex of the triangle, sextile to Pluto in the early degrees of Aquarius, and then Pluto is trine going across the chart, trine to Uranus, which is at the end of Taurus, beginning of Gemini, and then Uranus is sextile to Neptune. So Neptune just between the end of Pisces and the beginning of Aries. So that mini grand trine, wow, for those really slow moving outer planets to be lined up like that is really, really rare and incredible. I've been talking about it in my other videos, of course. That's going to be influencing us over the next few years, bringing new technology, new ideas, new ways of seeing the world, humanitarian causes, rebellion, new ways of communicating, loads of innovation with all that Uranus and Aquarius energy, and deep long-term changes to power structures. And perhaps, I'm hoping, with the Aquarius energy and the Uranus energy, more power to the people, more grassroots mass movements, helping to crumble and innovate to bring more power to the common people. With Neptune in there, we can visualize the kind of future that we want. We can visualize it, imagine it, tell stories about it, dream it into being. And the other incredible thing that's happening involving Neptune is that Saturn is lining up with this amazing triangle to do a conjunction with Neptune in February this year. So just after next year. So just after Neptune goes back into Aries, Saturn is also going to come from Pisces into Aries, and those two are going to be in a conjunction, form a conjunction on the 21st of February next year. That is very exciting on its own. That happens every 30 something years. But it's just incredible that they're part of that mini grand trine, which has not taken place in probably thousands of years. I did look it up at some stage. I'm sure it was thousands. Can't remember how many thousands. Sorry, I didn't take a note. Yeah. So big stuff for the world, but in this video I'm going to talk about what it might mean for your chart, and I'm just isolating the Neptune side of the story more so. So I'm going to go through sign by sign. I'm going to start with Aries because, you know, Aries, it's going to be Neptune in your sign for the next 14 years, but I'm also going to talk about what that means for Neptune and Pisces as well. So please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. I hope that wasn't too long an introduction. I'm going to go sign by sign now. If you are Aries, Sun, Moon or Rising, well, Neptune is going to be in your first house for the next 14 years or so. And for the previous 14 years, since 2011, you have had Neptune in the sign of Pisces, your 12th house. And while Neptune was in your 12th house, well, Pisces is known as the classic or the quintessential 12th house. So having Neptune in your 12th house is kind of even like it's double energy, 12th house energy. So because Neptune has that kind of energy. The 12th house is about where you escape from the world, your areas of retreat, and it can even be addictive substances because that's a form of escapism, but it can be just where you rest and retreat and recharge, connect to your inner self. Your inner child is also where you can be hidden from the world. For example, if you're traveling far away overseas, or if you're in a place where people aren't seeing you and you're not seeing them so much. Yeah, so it can be foreign travel as well. All right, what have I written here? So Neptune in the 12th house is its natural house, and during that time, you may have found that when you've been away from, when you're not out in the world, you've been extra intuitive, extra dreamy, extra kind of interested in mystical things. But this will not be stuff that you're really sharing a lot with people. This would be more in a private kind of way, or if you're sharing it with anyone, it's not really impinging too much on the rest of your life. That Neptune in your 12th house will have given you a chance to dream and to just drift and let your mind and your thoughts and your imagination drift. And it's a time where ideas will be fermenting, like developing, and they might be coming out over the next 14 years as Neptune goes into your first house. I'll just see if I've got any other notes. So you might have even had more escapist tendencies while Neptune has been in that 12th house since 2011. When Neptune goes into your first house, so which it has been since March, and then 22nd of October it's going to go back into that 12th. But in your first house, so that is a house of you. This is going to mean you're going to be a little bit more perhaps confused, perhaps dreamy, confused about your identity, confused about who you are in the world. The first house is about your body and how you approach life and how people see you. People might see you over that next 14 years as being more dreamy, maybe being more imaginative, and you might be bringing out more imaginative ideas into the world. And when you have that conjunction with Saturn from February, that might bring something like one of these new ideas and dreams that you have for the world. You might be looking at ways to make that into reality, but then sticking to the ideals and the compassion and perhaps the imaginative and the idealism of Neptune. You might find that gifts come to you during that time, and then gifts get taken away. Like, for example, you might develop some kind of fame or reputation, because Neptune can have this glamorous aspect to it, but then after a while that might get taken away, and there's a lot of needing to let go with Neptune, a lot of needing to just let go, let gods. I'm trying to get a better view there. You might find that you get more into Neptunian forms of art, like movie making, imaginative creative painting, like it's less focused on realism. Photography is Neptunian, working with colors, especially if they're blues and purples and aqua colors like water. And you might become less materialistic and be not caring so much about counting pennies or worrying about money or thinking about who owes you what, or what you owe, or just like flowing with things and trusting and having more faith. And that can be great in some ways. Just make sure you don't completely let go of reality. Of course, you're going to have Saturn going through your sign as well, so you're going to be very realistic. But once Saturn goes out in 2.5 years or so, or 3 years, then it's going to be Neptune in your sign and really making you more dreamy, more flowy, more intuitive and instinctive and imaginative. So there we go, Aries. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Taurus, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Taurus Rising, over the last 14 years or so, since 2011, you've had Neptune going through your 11th house, and the 11th house is a house of long-term goals, like your dreams and plans for the future, friendships, and also rewards from work. During this time, you might have been more dreamy with your long-term goals. You might have been more altruistic and charitable, and thinking about causes to help humanity, and being more idealistic and even romantic about those, perhaps a little bit unrealistic at times. And also with your long-term goals, they could have been quite maybe a little more glamorous and idealistic and imaginative. You may have had gifts that have come along in terms of rewards from your work, and maybe things taken away that just, I don't know, mystically disappeared in a kind of, they were there and then they were gone and you didn't even see it happen. And in your friendships, you might have been more idealistic. You might have had glamorous, artistic friends, maybe who do performance, or they create music, maybe very creative people, or maybe this is what you've been doing with your friends over the last 14, 15 years. And then with Neptune in Aries, so that's been the last few months since March until the 22nd of October, and then it will be from the end of January until 2038. That is Neptune going into your 12th house. And the 12th house is Neptune's natural place because it rules Pisces, and the Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac. You're going to, the 12th house is about how you escape in the world, how you escape from reality, you retreat, and it's like a sanctuary, or it's things that you're doing that are kind of hidden from the world, they're private. It can be foreign travel or any places and people that are not part of the rest of your life that you're known for. Okay, it's also, the 12th house is also a place of dreaming, and it's known as the house of self-undoing. It can be like where there's place, because the first house is yourself, you, and then the 12th house, 12 houses from there is how you become undone. So it's like where your identity unravels, where you wonder who you are and about your place in the universe. With Neptune there, over the next 14 years to 2038 or so, you're going to be a lot more dreamy and imaginative, like even more so, and maybe even wanting to retreat more. You might be more interested in connecting with people who are not in the mainstream, who are not like on the fringe of society, like even outside of society, or even in foreign countries, and people in prisons, people in hospices, and you might have more to do with them that would connect with the 11th house that you've just had Neptune going through. And you would definitely be more idealistic about the situation for those people, or if you're in that kind of situation, more idealistic. You'll be romanticizing that kind of person and that kind of situation. And you're likely, with that 12th house Neptune placement over the next 14 years, to want to have more spiritual connection, more wondering about the meaning of life and the vastness of life and the place of the tiny little person that each of us is in all of life. And yeah, wondering about all those meanings and the bigness of the world. You're likely to be more getting lost in dreams, getting lost in idealism, and perhaps more creative when you're in those private spaces of your own. So all the best for that, Taurus. I hope you enjoy that 12th house transit with Neptune. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Gemini Rising, over the last 14 years or so, since 2011, Neptune was going through Pisces, which is your 10th house of career and public reputation. This might have made you, over those 14 years, more connected to artistic pursuits or artistic careers, more imaginative in your career, or dealing with careers or jobs that have more to do with imagination. There could have been a bit of a rosy glow to do with your career, like glamorizing it, like seeing yourself as almost like in a movie as you're going about your work, your meaningful work. Or even there could have been gifts where you were given gifts of like positive reputation or new jobs, but then also things could have been taken away. They were there one day, they were gone the next, in that mystical way that Neptune can behave. You may have lacked direction with your career over the last 14 years, as well as idealizing your career and your career goals. So maybe lacked direction, but then you might have also had great intuition where you just had feelings about things or projects to pursue in your career, and intuition about public trends and about the vibe that's going around that helped you at times in your career. So that's coming to an end, and you might want to look back and see where that has shown up. Perhaps you had a little more charisma, but perhaps you also have lacked boundaries. So you're going to feel a little more steady and solid in your career, but maybe it's going to lack a bit of sparkle. But you've got another couple of months, October, November, December and January, with Neptune back there, but then it's going to be moving into your 11th house. And the 11th house is for you, it's for Aries, and as Neptune goes through Aries over the next 14-15 years from January, and it's already been there since March this year, and then October, the 22nd, it's going to move back into Pisces. Anyway, so let's talk about Neptune in your 11th house. Neptune in your 11th house, the 11th house is about your long-term goals and plans for the future, and you might be more dreamy and vague, but also idealistic and perhaps romantically inclined in your long-term goals. You might have great, grand, glamorous plans that you're aiming for, but they could be a little bit vague and overly romanticized. The 11th house is also about friendship groups and organizations of people that you belong to, especially where there's humanitarian causes, and this would be a great one for getting involved in causes that are to do with people who are dispossessed or outside on the fringes of society, not fully accepted into society. You might feel a lot more charitable and moved by people and these kind of causes, and willing to put time into and intuitively supporting and compassionately supporting people like this in that time. And yeah, so, and also with your friendship groups, you might have more connections with artistic people, musical people, people involved in film or performance, people who might have a little bit of sparkle and glamour about them, or you might be doing these kind of pursuits with your friends more so over the next 14 years. So I think you'll enjoy that. There'll be some vagueness and confusion and over idealistic thinking, but there's also some magic and wonderful imagination and intuition to be enjoyed. So all the best for that, Gemini. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, over the last 14 or 15 years, you've had Neptune in your 9th house, and that's while Neptune has been in Pisces. The 9th house is about foreign travel, and maybe you've traveled near water a lot during that time. Maybe that's been a feature. Also, your travel may have had more to do with imaginative things, to do with artistry, art, music, creativity. It might have had something to do with films and movies. And then the 9th house is also about belief systems. So you could have become really idealistic and perhaps more dreamy and expansive thinking in terms of your belief systems. It may have even got you like leaving behind or letting go of some beliefs and systems of faith that you had before, and looking at new ones. And some of those new ones might be ephemeral, you might have been into them for a while and then you let them go because Neptune, you know, things come in and then you let them go. You could have been taken for a ride, perhaps even this could be a classic transit for following a guru who's not actually a genuine, authentic person, and in terms of the beliefs that they're putting forward and how they're living, and getting taken for a ride in that way. But On the other hand, it could have brought in somebody and just made you think more expansively and intuitively about beliefs, less prosaically and materially, perhaps. The ninth house can also be about higher learning and philosophizing about life. And you might have found, again, that you were less into like learning about, you know, if you're into higher learning like university learning, you might have wanted to get a lot more expansive and imaginative, less about facts and figures, more about really big picture thinking. Okay, and then you're going to have Neptune going into your 10th house of career, and this might mean bring a little bit of glamour and sparkle to your career over the next 14 years or so while Neptune is going through Aries. So that will be from the end of January onwards, because from 22nd of October until end of January, Neptune's going back into that 9th house of yours for a few months. You've had, since March, it's been in your 10th house, okay? So the 10th house of career, with Neptune there from January onwards, you're likely, like I said, to have a little bit more of glamour and sparkle, but maybe be more unrealistic in your career. You could have career gifts that come along where like there's charisma and you're exuding charisma and people are suddenly really into you, and that improves your reputation and perhaps your career opportunities. But then Neptune can also take things away. That might disappear at some stage. You might have more intuition, and you might be vague and confused and not so concerned with facts and figures and reality checks. So be aware of that. But on the other hand, your intuition could be spot on. Just make sure you're not being deceived by anything. You might have a feeling for trends and energies that are flowing in the markets and with populations of people that could be useful information in whatever career that you've got. And your career might become more involved with film, glamour, advertising, the media, or any creative pursuits like music and art. You might lack a bit of direction in your career as you get a bit vague and dreamy, but on the other hand, there are some gifts to come, and you'll be perhaps bringing more compassion and charitable concerns into your career. So all the best for that, Cancer, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Leo, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Leo Rising, over the last 14 years, until March this year, you have had Neptune in your 8th house, and that is Pisces is your 8th house. The 8th house is a house of psychological transformation, and in that regard, Neptune might have helped you by helped you feel more spiritually connected, and understanding the big picture and the vastness of life might have helped you with some of the meaning of life, and even looking to God or a higher purpose. That might have helped you with some kinds of spiritual transformation. You might have realized some of your psychic potential even, and had intuition that helped you with the deep underlying layers of psychology and the deep-rooted power that exists within all of us, the kind of raw power, and understand more of what goes on in those kind of energetic realms that we can't see and touch, but we feel them. The 8th house also has to do with large amounts of money that you don't have ready access to, but they are part of your life, whether that is your partner's money or investments. And maybe you've been a little more dreamy and idealistic, but also intuitive in those areas, and perhaps you got taken, you could have been more prone to being deceived or just deceiving yourself in those areas. So you would have had to have been careful with that. But then on the other hand, the intuition can help. Gifts of money might have come to you, and money might have been taken away from you, because Neptune gives and it takes. Yeah. So you may have been over idealistic in those areas, but on the other hand, the intuition might have helped you. Over the next 14 years, so since March this year until the 22nd of October, Neptune has moved into your 9th house. And then Neptune will be in your 9th house again from end of January until 2038. So a really long time. So Neptune in your 9th house, the 9th house is about travel, long distance travel. Perhaps you'll travel to places with water more likely. Perhaps your travel will involve more imagination, more people who are not so strongly placed, like dispossessed people. Perhaps it'll involve travel to do with music and the arts and interest in that. That could be your organizer, like you might go to different types of artistic events around the world, something like that, if you're traveling. The 9th house is also about belief systems, and maybe you will get more, so belief systems, it could be like a religion, which is a system of belief and spiritual principles, and you might get more dreamy and idealistic with your beliefs. It might even be that you completely change your belief systems. Like you might find over the next 14 years that the ways that you were thinking, it was just kind of too reality based, too prosaic, not allowing for enough of the great vastness that is everything in life. And so you might get more vague, get more confused about your beliefs, but also expand your beliefs and become more recognizing of all the great vast energetic realm, the great soup that we exist in, that we can't actually see, but it does exist. Be careful if you're around people who are selling you belief systems or religious or spiritual ideas, because Neptune can make us prone to being deceived. So deception can be a problem with Neptune. So make sure not to get taken on a ride and like end up in some kind of cult or anything like that. That could be a risk. But mostly it's a great place for Neptune to be, because the 9th house is expansive and rich in wonderful big ideas and great imagination, and Neptune loves that. So I think that's going to be great for you, Leo. So all the best for that, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Virgo, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Virgo Rising, over the last 14 years, Neptune has been in your 7th house of partnership. So since 2011, your house of partnership is Pisces, straight across from you in the chart. And partnership is about intimate partners, like life partners, committed relationships, not so much dating, but long-term relationships. People that you're working with on a one-to-one basis, so like clients or bosses, practitioner and clients, or therapist and client, or people that you're working with at work on projects in a one-to-one way, or a friend that you spend a lot of time with on a one-to-one basis. So over the last 14 years, you could have had magical feeling gifts come along in this area, and then losses as well, where maybe somebody came in who was glamorous, sparkling, you fell in love, but then they disappeared again in whatever area, whether that was in romance or in other areas. And I'd have just been more confused and easily deceived in romance, unfortunately. Actually, I've just realized there's somebody I know well who is Virgo rising, and certainly they were deceived. They went with somebody who was, two-timing them, and they were together for a couple of years, and they didn't even realize that they were being deceived in that way. Also, I will talk about my mother. She is a Virgo rising, and my father's got dementia, and that's been revealed slowly but surely over the last 14 years. And so my mother's partner has that Neptunian feel about him, the dementia, that has made him confused and not with reality. But it might be like you could have a partner, you could have had a partner that is just more Neptunian like in terms of they're more artistic, they're imaginative, they are spiritual, and they think about the big things and the energies of life, and they're not so much reality focused. So that could have been the kind of person that came along. Over the next 14 years, you've got well, actually, since March this year, you've had Neptune in your 8th house, and until the 22nd of October, it will be there. Then it's back into your 7th house for the last few months. And then from the end of January, Neptune will be in your 8th house in Aries. Okay, so Neptune in your 8th house is going to help you with your psychic awareness, because the 8th house is very psychic. And Neptune is intuitive and intuitive and has gifts of knowing. So that psychic intuition might be enhanced with Neptune going through your 8th house over the next 14 years. You also could be a little bit more confused. Make sure you don't get taken for a ride by any negative psychic energies. Not all energies are good, so be aware of that, because Neptune can be deceptive as well. In practical real terms, the 8th house is about your partner's money or other large amounts of money that are in your life, but they're controlled by somebody else, or they're connected with you but you don't have really access to them. So like investments or taxes, you might be more idealistic, more romantic, and more easily deceived in these areas. And in some ways that could be good. Maybe you just let go of things and you don't worry about your retirement savings quite so much. Or it might be that you'd want to make sure that if you do have a partner, that things are fair between you and your partner, that your partner's contributing financially to the relationship as much as you are, and don't sort of be blind to that, because Neptune can make us misty and we can't see things properly. So don't be over idealistic in that area. And as the 8th house can also rule sexual intimacy, not so much sort of like the fun, light sex, because that's more like the 5th house, but deep connection would be really possible, and Neptune would help it feel like really romantic and glamorous and intimate, and in a way like connected to the universe. So that could be really lovely, quite ecstatic even. So all the best for that, Virgo. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Libra, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Libra Rising, over the last 14 years until March this year, Neptune was in your 6th house. Pisces is your 6th house. So Neptune in your 6th house would have made you in your daily work a little more dreamy, more imaginative and vague. And unfortunately that may have been difficult, because the 6th house is very much about the details of daily life admin, and Neptune does not like details. Neptune is about the big picture, vast stuff. So that could have been difficult, and you might find that there's a little bit of that coming up again, because from the 22nd of October until the end of January, Neptune's going back into that 6th house of yours to finish off something. So the downside is being a little vague and confused about the details of like your exercise programs, your daily things that you need to keep life running, your daily work, how you give practical service in the world. Neptune is so impractical. But on the upside, you could have been bringing, to the benefit of others around you as well as perhaps, I hope, to yourself, you could have been bringing more imagination, more dreaminess, more creativity, even charisma and sparkle to daily life. Perhaps spontaneous moments where you went off swimming, where you said to your workmates, let's sing a song. where you told people about things in the form of a story and just still, instead of just giving them the facts. These are the ways that the imagination of Neptune could help in daily work. You could have been more confused and more vague, and that will be coming to an end once Neptune moves out, and it will be moving into your 7th house. So you are going to have Neptune going into your house of partnership, Libra, okay? Because Aries is your partner's house, and this is the kind of partners in your life that you work with or spend time with on a one-to-one basis, whether that is your intimate partner or people that you work with a lot, one-to-one, or it could be like the client or practitioner relationship. Or even friends that you spend a lot of time with one-to-one, okay? So you're going to be from March until the end of October, Neptune has been in that house of partnership, and then it will be again from end of January until 2038. That's going to make you more ready to see your partners as glamorous, as romantic, as charismatic, and a little bit sparkly. Perhaps you will get taken for a ride or even be deceived. Be careful of that. Be careful of people having affairs. That can happen. Be careful of your partner being deceptive or just being confused. Perhaps your partner might develop dementia, for example, is an example I know from my life with somebody with who's had that transit recently. Your partners might also appear to be more glamorous and charismatic, or you might be doing like more artistic things with them, imaginative things with them, music and art and storytelling, watching movies, the media, photography. Your partnership might have just this extra sparkle to it, but be careful of being deceived. Be careful of confusion and vagueness. Be careful when you're signing contracts or doing negotiations with any kind of partnership. Making sure, maybe get somebody who's like really sensible and clear thinking to check over the contract before you sign. But I hope you enjoy it. There could be some lovely metaphysical, spiritual experiences with your partner. All the best for that, Libra. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Scorpio Rising, over the last 14 years, Neptune has been in your 5th house. Pisces is your 5th house. The 5th house is about creative projects or performance projects, fun and play and hobbies. And you may have found over that last 14 years, you've been doing more Neptunian type hobbies like creative drawing, creative painting. You're not trying to draw anything that's really realistic, but it's more flowing and free and artistic and watery even. Your music might have been less structured and more flowing, or that was the kind of music that you like to listen to over that time. And your hobbies might have had to do with water or the media, photography, film, anything imaginative to do with storytelling, even writing really imaginative stories. Okay, so you've had some lovely help with the creativity with Neptune there, but you may have found also that you were a little bit vague and confused and directionless with your projects and your hobbies. The 5th house is also about romance, and maybe you have had like quite glamorous partners for dating, or glamorous even like artistic types of experiences in your romantic life, even with you, if you're with somebody, like when you got involved with doing romantic things together, it could have been more imaginative activities that you did to do with water perhaps, or film, going to see all those things I said before. The 5th house also rules our children, so maybe your children have got involved in more creative artistic projects, more imaginative things, and and you've supported them with that. Also, everybody involved in all of this, like your romantic partners or your children, could have been more confused, more vague, and prone to deception, whether they're deceiving you or they're being deceived by somebody else. Anyway, this was the case until March this year, and then Neptune moved into your 6th house. But it's about to come back into that 5th house again for a final few months, for like a final job until late January. So from the 22nd of October, Neptune will be back in that 5th house. But since March this year and until the 22nd of October, and then from the end of January onwards, Neptune will be in your 6th house. The 6th house is about daily life and practical activities, to keep life going, like life admin, and your daily work that you do to give service in practical ways to the world. So you will be probably, let's say your daily work, you might be more confused, you might be more vague and directionless in your daily work, less able to hold all the facts in your heads, but you could be bringing more imagination, more creativity, and more artistry and more charity perhaps to your workplace. Perhaps you'll be suggesting to your bosses, let's get our organization to support this or that charity. Perhaps you'll be saying to your workmates, let's all do a dance together and get connected. Let's go out dancing. Let's connect in these artistic ways. You might bring some nice beautiful paintings in and hang them up around the workplace. It might be that when you're explaining something to people in the workplace, instead of listing all the facts and figures, instead you explain through using a story that connects all those facts and figures and gets the message across in that the way that connects with the right brain of the people listening. In your daily life, doing your exercises, organizing things, writing your emails, keeping things in order in your home, you might be more messy and vague. But then you might bring more imagination and water. You might, like, instead of yoga or running, you might go swimming instead, because that's more Neptunian. Okay, there could be, the 6th house can be about health or even health problems, and you might find that there's mysterious health problems that come and then go, and nobody can really figure out what they are. They will probably disappear after, hopefully they'll disappear after the transit finishes. But overall, this could be a little bit of a challenging one, because the 6th house is very much about details and the details of reality in daily life. And Neptune doesn't like details, and Neptune doesn't like concrete reality. But you'll be bringing more imagination, more charisma even, and glamour and romance to those areas. So all the best for that, Scorpio. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Sagittarius Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Sagittarius Rising, over the last 14 years until March this year, Neptune was in your 4th house of home and family and your ancestry, your roots and your emotional private place. And from March this year, it went into your 5th house. We'll talk about that soon. But from the 22nd of October until the end of January, Neptune will be popping back into your 4th house. While Neptune has been in your 4th house, it's been making your home and family feel perhaps more vague and confused and less practical. But at the same time, you might have been bringing more imagination, more artistic pursuits, more creativity to the home. So you might have found that you yourself were bringing this kind of energy to the home, or you might have found that you were living more so with people who were pursuing those kinds of things, playing music and the art on the wall not being very realistic art, being more like flowing colors and swirls. And there might have been more things to do with water. Maybe you had troubles with water, like floods in your home or things like that. And there could have been more confusion in the home. Maybe like you've been messier in the home, not looking after it as well, or like just not being as organized with it. And perhaps confusion, maybe somebody with dementia in the home, or maybe some of your elders, like your family of origin, there's been dementia there because Neptune is just that confusion goes with it. Your home may have been over idealized, like might have felt a little more glamorous and romanticized, like perhaps you were like over romanticizing your home over that last 14 years, and it's just going to seem a little bit more ordinary, and what may have done since March, since Neptune moved into your 5th house. Well, from March until October this year, Neptune has been in your 5th house, and then it will be in your 5th house from the end of January until 2038. Neptune in your 5th house could be very nice because the 5th house is about fun things like play and projects and hobbies and projects that you do even to the level where you're putting them out in the world as entrepreneurial projects because they're things you really love and really love to do. And Neptune might make you in those kind of projects and hobbies be more imaginative, more intuitive, more flowing, more romantic, and accessing the right brain and bringing more imagination and maybe even more involvement with water, like maybe you've had a hobby to do with water, like open water swimming, something like that. Your children are ruled by come under the 5th house, and they might have been doing more Neptunian pursuits like music or fighting for causes, for dispossessed people. Maybe some of your kids have been out on the streets trying to support Palestine or any other people who need support. Also, the 5th house is about romance, so your romantic life is likely to get even more romantic. So if you're with somebody, it'll be the times that you put into romance, like date nights, or if you are single, when you're dating, things could get really romantic, and you'll have to just be careful not to be deceived because Neptune can bring deception. So don't get taken up with the glamour of great romantic gestures that might come your way. Enjoy them though, but make sure you keep your feet on the ground and be realistic about possible romance. But overall, it's going to be a great transit for getting into creative, imaginative, artistic hobbies and encouraging that in your children and enjoying an extra sparkly romantic life. Thank you for that, Sagittarius. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. Well, now I apologize for having a different look here. I made some errors and I needed to record part of the video. Now I'm going on to Capricorn, Sun, Moon and Rising. If you are Capricorn, Neptune has been going through your 3rd house. Pisces is your 3rd house since 2011 until March this year, and it will be again from 22nd of October until the end of January. Your 3rd house is about how you connect with your neighborhood, whether that is through talk and chat with your neighbors and community members, or as you commute and move around your neighborhood. It's about short distance travel. So you might have found over the last 14 years that you travel by water more often, perhaps by the sea or by river, or walking along the river more. And it might be that in your communications with your neighbors and your community, and I'll add to that your siblings, brothers and sisters, and your relations, you might have been more dreamy, imaginative, talking about imaginative things, telling stories, and also more vague and confused because that's part of Neptune. You could have been more prone to deception, either deceiving others, just you don't even mean to, you just aren't very clear, or others deceiving you, because with Neptune you can become enchanted, glamorized, and the wool can be pulled over your eyes. And this can go with all communication because The third house is so much about communication. You might have got into more expressing yourself in imaginative ways, talking about dreams, giving information in the form of stories and pictures rather than wanting to talk about logical facts and figures, or rather than wanting to pass things down to the details and the building blocks. Neptune would want to think in a more global way, a holistic way, looking at the big picture. So that would apply to your thinking, to your talking, and also to your learning, because the third house is about learning. And like I said, you might have come across in your social networking, whether it's online or in person, as being more vague and confused and dreamy. And intuition could have come into play and been really useful there as well. But from March this year, Neptune moved into your fourth house of home and family. And it will be there until the 22nd of October. But then again, from the end of January, right until 2038, even 2039. And that means your home, your family of origin, the people you live with, the house that you live in, or properties that you own, will be taking on a Neptunian flavor. So you might want to fill your home with more images that are flowing, to do with water, imaginative, mystical, or fill your house with music that is dreamy and imaginative and very flowing and grand in some ways. It might also be that there's more confusion in the home. Maybe you're a little more chaotic, less organized. Neptune's not so good at organization. Less organized, and it could even be that somebody in your home or family of origin develops dementia, or they're just more confused or dazed, not so clear. Okay, it could also be that you idealize your home and idealize your family, even idealize your country, like develop a sort of romanticized patriotic view. You might also be feeling more sensitive. So the fourth house can be a lot about our emotions and our sensitivities. And Neptune is very sensitive, but at the same time, you'll be more accepting of those sensitivities, more accepting of your emotions. And that compassion and acceptance that Neptune has can be very healing. So that could be good. So all the best for that, Capricorn, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, over the last 14 years, since 2011 until March this year, but then it's going to be again from October the 22nd until the end of January, Neptune has been in your second house, and the second house is about your finances and your earnings, your sense of self-worth. You may have been more vague and confused about your finances in this time, and maybe more idealistic about them. Maybe you've let go of some of the need for to have material possessions, less attached to what is material, like even less attached to money altogether, just more free and easy about it. You may have had to be careful not to be deceived with your money. Money could have come to you, or possessions and gifts material gifts could have come to you, and then they might have gone away again. Might have got into a way of managing your money that was much less about spreadsheets, not so much about counting your dollars, and more about just feeling faith. You could have even felt wealthy, even when objectively you weren't very wealthy, but you felt wealthy. You would have had to be careful not to be too vague, not confused, maybe forgot to pay some bills on time because, you know, Neptune's just kind of away with the fairies, and just would have had to be careful not to be deceived. Okay, and this energy is coming back, of course, between October and January. Okay, but then over the next 14 years, so from March until October this year, and then again from January onwards, it's slow, but it's subtle, and you'll be able to look back on it and see it. Neptune will be in your third house. And the third house, one of the areas of the third house is about learning. And you will find probably with Neptune in that third house, you're less interested in learning by the books and learning in practical kind of facts and figures sorts of ways, more about learning through the right brain, learning through stories, learning through pictures. I think people with dyslexia really learn better these ways with pictures and stories and connecting things to a whole rather than breaking it down into little bits. Neptune would encourage that kind of learning where you're looking globally thinking, you're looking at the whole. The third house is about also communication, and so it might be that you have been, or you will be, sorry, more vague with communication, and you miss some messages, you don't reply because you're just off in dreamland. But then with communication, again, you might be better at communicating things like through telling a story rather than just getting the message across in a straight way. And you might be going around your neighborhoods. You might have trouble with because, you know, Neptune, the third house is about transport and going around your neighborhood. You might walk in a kind of drifting way, or you might drive too slowly because you're dreaming. But it will be a great chance to express things imaginatively, and if you've got a small business, to think of some great idealistic grand ideas about it, but then try to be grounded as you execute the plans. All the best for that, Aquarius. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Pisces, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Pisces Rising, Neptune has been in our first house, and that's been since 2011 until March this year, and then we've got a final few months of it from the 22nd of October until late January. So with Neptune in our first house, I'm sure you've found, Pisces, like our identity has been changing. We've been maybe more like a chameleon. We've been altogether more dreamy and imaginative in the world. Since Neptune's been in my first house, I've definitely got more into realize that I'm a hippie and I'm not like your straight normal person, and I believe in the unseen energies of the world. I discovered astrology. Things could have come to us and then been taken away. We would have been going around in the world being more sensitive, more dreamy, more intuitive, and perhaps chameleon-like, like changing in this situation and then that situation, and confused about who we are, confused about what we are in the world, and people seeing us as being more dreamy and imaginative. Okay, so we've had a taste now of Neptune going into our second house, and that was from the end of March until, and it will be until the 22nd of October. With Neptune in our second house, that is going to be more about confusion and idealism in our finances and our earnings. All right, and then it's going to, after January, it's going to be in our second house until 2038, so for a really long time. So we might get less attached to money, less concerned with like counting our dollars with using spreadsheets or our euros or whatever you earn, and more about kind of believing that we're rich anyway. But on the other hand, we have to make sure that we're not going to be deceived or too confused or too vague so that we lose touch with reality. So we still need to pay our bills on time, and we still need to have enough material money and material possessions to run our life in this earthly reality that we live in. But we might feel like we're rich even when we're not. And we also might have intuition about money, and that could be really useful. But Neptune also can bring deception, where we're deceiving ourselves or others can deceive us. So we'll need to be careful of that. We might find that our earnings come more from Neptunian type professions, like from music or the arts or healing or anything that's to do or connected with unseen energies or spiritual connection. So that could be really nice. In the first few years, of course, we'll have Saturn going through that second house as well. So we'll have to be realistic during that time. Saturn's really going to make us be that. And Saturn and Neptune together will be a really good balance. But after that, it will be Neptune on its own. And we'll have to make sure we stay grounded in reality, but then also have faith and intuition. So all the best for that, Pisces. Please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. So that is all from me. I'm just going to say a couple of other things to finish this video. Apologies for the different look here. I had to re-record parts of this video, so this is added on later. Okay, so going back to this Neptune thing and the idea of us being eternal beings and connected to everything that exists in the universe. I've just been thinking about how we are so bound by Saturn and the concrete reality that Saturn demands we face up to. And of course, Saturn and Neptune will be in conjunction, coming to form a conjunction. They're very close now, but it will become exact at the end of February next year. Saturn being so much about what is rock hard, solid, tangibly real, and we have to face up to that concrete reality. And Neptune is the opposite. It is flowing and it's connected to everything that we can't see, that can seem unreal because it's not tangible. You can't touch it and feel it. But water is part of that. I know you can touch and feel water, but Neptune is also about unseen energies like even vapor. We are 80% or whatever it is, we are filled with so much water, and so we have that tidal flow within us. So we've got so much Neptune in us, so much of that magic and mysticism in us, the ability to connect to divinity, to heal through acceptance and unconditional love. And so when you're feeling tied down by the reality that Saturn requires of us and the hard work that the likes of Saturn requires of us, or some of that deep psychological purging that is hard to do, that Pluto requires of us, we can remember that there is that unconditional love and acceptance in us, all around us, within every part of the world, the very fabric of the world, that accepts us just as we are. And that is a beautiful thing about Neptune. Okay, we're coming up at the end of October to some water trines, and that is where Neptune by then will be just coming into Pisces, as I said, back into Pisces. And we've got Jupiter in late Cancer and Mars and Mercury going through Scorpio. So those three, Scorpio, Pisces and Cancer, are the water triangle, and that will be some lovely flowing energy at the end of October to look forward to. Very Neptunian, so very nice. That's all from me for now, and all the best everybody for the next 14 years with Neptune in Aries, but with everything that's going on. Ka kite, bye for now.